Alright, I am back on my regular kingdom where the item shops aren't completely rigged, and I'm going to be taking on Dragon Isle's Curious and earning Hoarder in the process. So the reason I wanted to take on Dragon Isle's Curious is it's not one of the hardest Curious Vicious dungeons. In fact, in my opinion, it's the easiest, at least out of the base game Vicious Curiouses. I haven't done all of the Enhanced Edition ones. But what it does have is multiple magic immune enemies in the final gauntlet. Those dragon elites that are normally there with 50% magic resist, like the one that shows up in Vicious Gauntlet, they're all magic immune in this version. So I wanted to see if I could still beat it with a pure spellcaster, and the answer is yes, very easily. I did this the first time on my rigged kingdom and got it in my first attempt. And then I was like, well, getting all these really good items is a bit unfair, so let's try it with just the normal kingdom, where the item shops will be regular, because I've got everything unlocked. Except Anti-Theist Collar, still need to get around to that. But anyhow, point is, went over to my regular kingdom, which is the run you're watching right now, got it first try, so this seems extremely doable. Admittedly, maybe I had some good luck with the glyphs, but I was still surprised with how easy it was to take on a dungeon where the endgame has multiple magic immune enemies. May as well desecrate Binlore for some piety here. I went with Mystera because I figured the refreshment boon to get lots of mana back would be really useful for the final fight. I end up not needing it, obviously, because getting Hoarder means I didn't convert any glyphs. But it was nice to have anyhow as a backup. And if I hadn't found Immortal, which I'm going to in a couple of levels, if I hadn't ended up finding Immortal, I would definitely have needed it. I found Wanna Fight before I'd even moved a single tile, and that was a huge find, because first of all, it gives me a great way to farm piety with Mystera. Second of all, it helps open up the map a little, get those low-level monsters out of my way. And third of all, I'm going to really be making use of it later on, so very glad to have it. It typically takes about 3 fireballs to take down a dragon ancestor. If you haven't done this Curious, which I don't know, I feel like most of the people who watch these videos do so because they've already played the expansion a bunch, but if you're not familiar with this Curious, then the gimmick is that, like Hex Ruins, when you kill one of these monsters, it resurrects as a dragon ancestor, and like Hex Ruins, they follow you around whenever you kill something else. The difference is that, unlike Hex Ruins, instead of poisonous, these guys have Protective Blessing, so they make it harder to kill nearby monsters. Combined with them following you around, if you let them build up, you'll get surrounded by a bunch of these things that are all protecting each other, and then you'll basically not be able to scratch them. But also like Hex Ruins, another way to deal with them is just to turn them to stone. Immortal does work on them, and it does give you bonus XP on your next kill, so as long as you don't turn them to stone in the middle of a corridor where they're in the way, that deals with the problem very handily. Instead of being an obstacle, they're just free Immortal fodder. And that, honestly, that kind of feels like it trivializes the dungeon too much. I'm kind of convinced that maybe Immortal should not work on the dragon ancestors. I think the dungeon is very fair for like a Vicious Curious dungeon if you don't find Immortal, but if you do find Immortal, it really takes away most of the challenge of the surface level. The underground Vicious does add new stuff on top of that, so it doesn't completely trivialize the challenge of the whole dungeon, but at least the upstairs, where the only change is the ancestors, being able to just turn them to stone so easily, it doesn't feel right. I don't know. But regardless, I didn't come here because I thought the upstairs would be difficult. I could have gotten by without Immortal. In fact, my previous attempt, I found Immortal, but completely forgot you could use it on Dragon Ancestors until after I'd already killed the Firstborn, so it is super doable. I came here because I thought the underground would be the interesting part due to the physical immune, or the magic immune enemies, so even if the upstairs gets made a lot easier than it should be, I think the most interesting part of the run will still be intact. We'll see. If I could pop the burning stack, I could kill this dragon, but with only 1 HP left, I can't do that without killing something else. And if I kill something else, then my bonus experience will be applied to the level 1 monster that I kill, instead of the level 5, and that's no good. I like my bonus experience. Thanks to Immortal being active for like every kill, I'm getting a lot of level ups off a single kill. And even once it slows down, I'm still leveling up once every 2 kills, so... Forest Troll is within reach, I'm gonna wait it somewhere else just so that it can't run away into the darkness. Ooh, I wonder. Something else that could be an interesting approach is what if the statues of dragon ancestors still had protective blessing? So you could turn them to stone to solve the problem, but then that region of the map will have a permanent protection, so there is still a cost. I bet it's like not really doable in the code to like give protective blessing to a piece of wall though, and then like you could break them within this wall, or... Never mind, that doesn't seem like a good idea. It's an interesting thought, maybe. It's a good corner of the map. More max mana and lots of enemies, and a soul orb. So downstairs there are magic immune and physical immune enemies. The magic immune enemies are obviously the big problem, but the physical immune ones have mana burn, so a soul orb to deal with those is going to be really nice. In fact, it's so nice I'm going to buy it now, even though it's completely useless up here on the surface where nothing has mana burn, just because I know I'm going to want it really badly later on. Figuring out where to stand so that when I attack this troll and it does its whole troll running away thing, it ultimately ends up dying and therefore spawning a dragon ancestor and therefore eventually leaving a statue on a tile that I don't mind being blocked. A failure wouldn't have mattered too much because even if it blocked a path, there's enough like alternate paths here that I still wouldn't have been locked in or out of an area, but I still think it's a good habit to be in to always be on the lookout for that sort of thing. I'm gonna get pretty high level before taking on the boss, the Firstborn. First of all, because I can, I have Eye on the Wall. Second of all, because I'm gonna want to hit the level cap. And third of all, because the Firstborn's actually pretty tough for this build. So, I got inspired to do this because someone, I think Shade of Ox, was saying that they're convinced this build can beat basically anything. And I was like, well, can it beat this physical immune dungeon? Or magic immune dungeon? And of course the answer is yes, but the real answer to what it can't beat is just things with fat health bars. So like I've tried out this Purecaster Codex approach in Naga City with Vicious Token. Not even Naga City Curious, just regular Naga City with Vicious Token, and I was not able to handle it. So because of that, I have a healthy respect for things with way too much HP, and the Firstborn is definitely one of those things. May as well buy this crystal ball so it can start charging. We've seen all the shops now, so we know what is and isn't available, and there's nothing better than crystal ball around. A lot of the shops were fairly useless to us. We don't want Fine Sword. With all these magic users around, we don't want Tower Shield. We have no use for Martyr Wraps. So I was caught a little off guard here because I realized I don't actually know where the stairs to the endgame gauntlet are. There's that trapdoor in the middle, but that just leads to one of those little 5x5 sub-dungeons with a bunch of gold piles. I don't actually know where the stairs to the Matron's den could be. And that's despite exploring like 99% of the map, so eventually I figure, oh, that question mark there, that must be the stairs. I always forget that stairs look like items when you sort of half-explore them by seeing them across the water. The numbers work out really nicely there. 2 fireballs gets the guard down to 18 health with 18 burning stacks, so that's perfect for an exact kill by popping the burning stack. These guards also curse us, but with holding a shield and no plate mail, that's not too big a concern to us. Another thing that makes it less of a concern is that killing dragon ancestors removes curses. I was kind of surprised by that. I thought that since they were no experience, that wouldn't be the case, but apparently it is. I don't know. As we've seen before, 2 fireballs is enough to get Dragon Guard into lethal range, so I just need to attack something else, and I'm trying to pick something that won't die in 1 hit, but will die in 2 hits, just in case I want to punch it to death afterward. It doesn't really matter, I didn't need to overthink it that much. I always go down the wrong stairs. It's so central, I keep assuming that must be where the endgame is. I think it's because of the Scrooge badge. For Scrooge, the endgame boss parade sub-dungeon is always near the entrance. Let's get ourselves access to a little more darkness. Spend a bit of health to punch those guys down, that's okay with us. Kill this dragon ancestor to get it out of the way. There's, I think, this one more guard here before we get into the physical immune enemies, and the matron is locked behind, or the magic immune enemies, sorry. And the matron should be locked behind them, but I have Wanna Fight and I've reached the level cap, so I'm just gonna summon her to me. Remember there was a blue bead in that shop, so I'm going to pick that up. I can get a bit more mana by killing weak monsters. And getting up to 10 will let me kill that ancestor down there. The matron has chaotic, so every time I hit her, I'll get, like, chucked away. So I want to make sure there's a nice long path I could get knocked onto, where I'll still actually have a way to walk back to the matron to hit her again. Nothing else much of interest in shops. Nobody has magic resist, so Piercing Wand is irrelevant. Matron deals magic damage, so Tower Shield is irrelevant. Always going down the wrong sub-dungeon. Alright, hit her, and she knocked us on the wrong side of this guard. Luckily, this last guard here is not magic immune, only that purple elite further down is, so I can use Wait What to swap places and get back into the action. Picking up some glyphs, and taking refreshment so that if I need them, I can get tons of extra mana refills at a moment's notice. Since depending on where Chaotic sends me, I could theoretically get locked out of the upstairs if I don't have any mana left to get home. Right, so far she's just knocking us onto this nice long path. The area at the end of the path, where the Matron of Flame normally lives, is much more cramped than this first area. The monsters are very close together. That's meant to be a penalty to us. It's meant to be like, you have less room in which to, like, get darkness. There, see, there's only one space between those elites. I did land there, but I could swap back. But if they were further apart, it would be a lot more likely for me to land somewhere back there where I wouldn't have access to the matron anymore. So because of Wanna Fight pulling her over into this much more sparsely populated end of the dungeon, the cramped quarters near her usual place is actually working in our favor. So that's that Wanna Fight. Let us just skip the completely impossible segment of this dungeon. I could have drunk a can of Whoopaz to make room for the Dragon Shield, but maybe for once I'll actually do what the flavor text says and actually decide against taking a trophy. So, that's it. Defeating a dungeon with multiple magic immune mini-bosses using a magic-only build. I love this game. Not the most impressive run, but definitely a funny one.